Yo, what's going on YouTube? And welcome to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte. We're going to be taking a look at the Colorado Avalanche today as Joe Sakic is having a very nice offseason for the Colorado Avalanche. We'll be taking a look at some of the moves he's made so far and my predictions for what the Colorado Avalanche could look like next season. We'll be taking a look at that in this video. If you like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey, want to see the latest news around the NHL, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and a subscribe down below. And let's take a look at Joe Sakic and the Colorado Avalanche. Alright, so before we get too far into this video, as always, want to give a quick plug to our Instagram and Twitter handles at goalline_hockey. Links will be in the description down below, as well as throughout this video. Alright, so with that out of the way, Joe Sakic, the general manager of the Colorado Avalanche, a few years back was on the hot seat. And since then, the Colorado Avalanche, you could argue, have probably one of the best, deepest rosters right now in the NHL. We'll be looking at that in this video. So with that out of the way, let's start off looking at their forward line. So the top line, you've got Gabriel Landeskog, Nathan MacKinnon, and Mikko Rantanen. Now, that was not always the line last season. We saw Landeskog or Rantanen kind of shifting around the lineup, mostly Rantanen, but that's projected lines right here as of daily faceoff at this point. Pretty solid top line, I would say. Then we start looking at some of the moves that they made in the offseason, already affecting their top six. As you have Brandon Saad, who they acquired from the Chicago Blackhawks. He's on the second line, playing with Jonas Donskoy on the other wing, and then Nazem Kadri centering that second line. That's a pretty solid second line, not going to lie, for the Colorado Avalanche. And again, you add a little bit more experience. You've had Kadri, who's been in this, in the NHL for a little while now. Donskoy, a pretty solid depth scoring player. And then Brandon Saad, who brings that experience to the NHL, and you can't have enough of that on your team, and especially the Avalanche, who are still fairly young. I think that's a great asset to have in a veteran like Brandon Saad. Now we move into the bottom six: Tyson Jost, JT Compher down the middle, and Andre Burakovsky. Andre Burakovsky could jump into that top six, if I'm going to be honest. He played in the top six with the Washington Capitals back in the day. He had a really nice season last year with the Avalanche. He got a nice contract this year, a nice 2-year deal, so he'll be there for the next couple of seasons. I like this third line, a really solid line. JT Compher, all right, maybe not their most valued asset, if I'm going to be honest, but you know what? Tyson Jost, he's due for a good season next year. The former North Dakota, whatever they call them up there, he looks pretty solid. He needs to develop a little bit more, but I think he has a lot of potential at the NHL level. And then the fourth line, Valeri Nichushkin, Pierre-Edouard Bellemare, as well as Matt Calvert. I actually like that fourth line. It's, again, not super gritty. That's one thing about this team that I don't really like. They don't have a ton of grit. Obviously, Brandon Saad and Nazem Kadri bring that a little bit. But this is a pretty solid lineup overall compared to other, fourth lines and third lines in the NHL. Pretty solid for the Colorado Avalanche. And then we move on to the defense. And this is where things just get absolutely nuts. You've got Ryan Graves and Cale Makar as that top pairing. Ryan Graves, you could argue, all right, maybe he's not the best defenseman in the world, but playing with Cale Makar, that seems like a great fit. They have some chemistry there. I think that's a really nice top pair for the Avs. And then you've got Samuel Girard and Erik Johnson on the second pair. And Samuel Girard, we know how talented he is. As Erik Johnson continues to get older, he definitely fits better in that second pairing for the Colorado Avalanche, and he's still a very serviceable defenseman at this point. And then your third pairing, which is Ian Cole and the newly acquired from the New York Islanders, Devon Toews. I love Devon Toews. I'm so disappointed that the Islanders lost him. But this is a really great addition for the Avalanche. Just adds more defensive depth to that lineup, considering they lost Nikita Zadorov in that deal with the Chicago Blackhawks. Bringing in Devon Toews was a great acquisition by General Manager Joe Sakic. And then obviously goaltending, we've got Philip Grubauer and Pavel Francouz. It seems like Joe Sakic has been out on a limb, willing to maybe trade for a Matt Murray or a Marc-Andre Fleury in the past. But it seems like they will be sticking with Grubauer and Francouz moving forward. I like that for the Colorado Avalanche. And you look at some of the trades he's made so far this offseason. So the first big one we see, Brandon Saad gets $1 million retained off his $5 million left on his contract, as well as Dennis Gilbert go to the Colorado Avalanche in exchange for Nikita Zadorov and Anton Lindholm. This is a good trade for the Avalanche. Zadorov could be a nice addition for the Blackhawks blue line, but I really like Brandon Saad and the veteran leadership that he has. So they take off $1 million. It was originally a $6 million contract that Brandon Saad had. The Blackhawks now have to retain $1 million on that, and they also pick up a depth player in Dennis Gilbert. No harm, no foul there. But I think Brandon Saad is the best player that was traded in that deal. So definitely a win for the Colorado Avalanche. And now we move on to a couple trades with the New York Islanders. So we see AJ Greer go to the New York Islanders in exchange for Kyle Burroughs, another defenseman, more of a depth AHL move. But Kyle Burroughs was the captain of the Bridgeport Sound Tigers, the New York Islanders AHL affiliate team. So take with that what you will. It's a pretty solid remark there. So a solid pickup for the Colorado Avalanche there. And then they make another trade with the New York Islanders a day later. Lou Lamoriello and Joe Sakic having a couple of different discussions. And they end up trading for their 2021 and 2022 second-round picks from Colorado go to the New York Islanders in exchange for defenseman Devon Toews. This is a great trade for the Avalanche, again, because chances are the Islanders made this trade to move out the contract of Johnny Boychuk. And if they do not trade these second-round picks to get Boychuk off or another player, that contract out of the way, this is a lost trade for Lou Lamoriello and the Islanders, because chances are they are not going to find a Devon Toews-esque player with one of or both of those second-round picks, which would be a real loss for the Islanders. They probably could have gotten one first-round pick for Devon Toews, possibly. So to take 2 second-round picks, that just waters the value even more. And the fact that now you have those draft picks just sitting there, it's not the best case for the Islanders. So again, I have to give the win to the Avalanche. The best player available in this deal is Devon Toews, and even if he is the only guy in this deal. So again, great trade by Joe Sakic. And you realize some of these moves are depth moves. Obviously the Brandon Saad one, they bring in a top 6 forward, but the Devon Toews one, just adding defensive depth. And he's going to come in at a decent price tag, I would think, but the Avalanche have the cap space, so it doesn't really mean all that much to them if they have to re-sign him this offseason. He's going to be playing on a third pair unless they move down a Ryan Graves, which I don't see that happening based off of how he played last season. So Devon Toews will be interchangeable in that top, in those 3 pairings. And again, he can move the play forward. He jumps up on the play sometimes, which is sometimes to his own detriment. The way the Avalanche play their game, I think he's a great addition to that roster. And as an Islander fan, I have to say, I hate to see him go, but I really like that the Avalanche have just completely bolstered up their lineup. They did not get a Taylor Hall or a Pietrangelo or a Krug, but they still added players that make them better. And I think some people out there, some of you Av fans, would probably argue the goaltending, you're still a little bit on the fence. But I think Joe Sakic realizes he likes Philip Grubauer, and Philip Grubauer seems to be the guy. If you have to go to Pavel Francouz, that's where things maybe get interesting. But I like Philip Grubauer as long as he could stay healthy. I think the Colorado Avalanche are due for a real Stanley Cup playoff run as long as he can stay healthy. So let me know in the comment section down below, Avs fans, as fans around the NHL overall, let me know in the comment section down below, what do you think of the Colorado Avalanche so far this offseason? Some of their moves, how they bolstered up their depth. Let me know in the comment section down below. And if you like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey, want to see the latest news around the NHL, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and a subscribe down below. Thank you so much for watching, and let's go Avs.